This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, DYD Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. That is never not going to be funny. Again, in our current situation, you either are able to laugh or you will end up crying. From the just sheer disaster of this Trump presidency. We'll be lucky to survive it. But if we do, many, many laughs will be had afterwards. All right. Anyway, I know you guys enjoy
Mike Pounds.
Well, we got a story about our friend Mike Pounds. So we'll talk about that later on in the show. First, we'll have a little bit of fun. Quarantine life. So how are people dealing with working from home, doing Zoom calls and all that? Well, we've got one example of what a lot of people apparently are doing when they're working from home, and that's not wearing pants. Fun. We've also got Trump taking zero responsibility for telling people to inject bleach. That's also disastrous / fun. We've got more important stuff that's happening today as well. We have Donald Trump basically ordering meat plants to stay open despite high numbers of people getting COVID-19. So it's coronavirus. It's bad, but it is related to our food system as well. So I guess it's a little bit difficult of a situation here. Then we've got, again, Trump basically calling for more cuts to Social Security. So we're going to talk about that. And will there be another round of stimulus? We'll see. But probably not. And then we've got, if we get to it, we have a call for Bernie to unsuspend his campaign. So it's a very specific call from an influential celebrity. We'll talk about that and whether or not that's a good idea. Got a fun show today. Like and share the stream. Super chats, always welcome. Helps us out. Also, later on, we'll be thanking some patrons. We're doing a patron drive. We're trying to get to 400 patrons. We're at 381. So we're at 381. We want to get 400 by the end of the month. We do not have a lot of time left. Panic time. Sign up, patreon.com/TYTNation, so that this show can be sustainable. Because currently, we're not. We're not sustainable. Bad, not good. So help us out and ensure that the show not only is sustainable, but also healthy. So, all right. So let's start out with our first fun little story here. Pants. Yes. All right. Lights, check. Camera, Check, obviously. Pants, apparently optional. At least that's according to the experience of a few journalists that have found themselves working from home thanks to COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders, as well as a little thing we call Zoom calls. So now, one journalist specifically, on a recent appearance of Good Morning America, got caught with, not with his pants down, but not wearing pants at all. So this is ABC News reporter Will Reeve. And it turns out he had his camera panned just a little too low, revealing that he is business on top, casual below. Let's take a better look at that picture here. And so, hey, there's. How did they not know? You know they know. Look at their face. Look at her face. Like you can see it. She's trying to suppress a laugh. You know it. And he's all like, what? What's going on? What? Oh, crap. Oops. Wardrobe malfunction. Well, I mean, it would be a wardrobe malfunction if he was even wearing the correct wardrobe. I'm just saying. So now he talked about this on social media. He said that he had prematurely gotten ready for his workout. So very, very short shorts. Who wears short shorts? Will Reeve wears short shorts. Hey, you know what? If you're going out to exercise, that actually makes a lot of sense. But he said on social media, quote, any sartorial tips from these people who are wearing a belt, trousers, and shoes during their work video calls at home are most welcome. So what's funny here is the guy's not the only one. Look, we're going to be 100%, right? So many people now working from home, doing those Zoom meetings. And, again, because of all these stay-at-home orders, you got a lot of people that are like, business up top, casual on bottom. Or I'm just going to turn off my camera because then people won't see me lounging in bed with my sweaty pants on. Just saying. So it's kind of funny. And look, here's the thing. I can assure you, I have always worn pants when I do this show. I cannot show you because my camera does not pan that far. So, and I've got kind of a tight shot going on here. But if I wasn't wearing pants, you'd never know. You'd never know the difference. But I can assure you, I'm wearing pants. Just saying. Now, my question is, William Reeve, guilty or not guilty? Is he guilty, right? Like, should he, I don't know. I mean, look, I think it's fine. Like, whatever. Oopsie. But what do you guys think about this entire situation? Guilty, not guilty. I'm not saying should he get in trouble for, apparently not wearing pants. But, I mean, I don't know. That's up to you guys. Let me know in the comments. I seriously do not have the camera angle to stand up. Like, I don't. Like, all you would see is the bottom of my shirt. Okay. Anyway. Fun times. All right. You guys want me to prove it. You guys want it. That I'm wearing pants. I told you, you literally cannot see. Like, I'm bumping the table here. I'm wearing pants. I told you I'm wearing pants. Told you. All right. Somebody's going to cut that out, and they're going to make a gif of it or something. I know it's going to happen. The letter hack will make a comic about this. I know it. Matt, I know you're a viewer. All right. Moving on. Let's go to the next story here. President Trump is not taking any responsibility for the uptick in people who are ingesting disinfectants. And he's going to tell you. Take a look.
Governor Larry Hogan specifically said they've seen a spike in people using disinfectant after your comments last week. I know you said they were sarcastic.
I can't imagine why. I can't imagine why. Yeah.
Take any responsibility?
No, I don't. No, I can't imagine. I can't imagine that.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine. No, I don't. I don't take any responsibility. Can't imagine why. Now, where would anybody get the idea? I mean, to do something like that, to ingest or inject any sort of disinfectant. I mean, where would anybody possibly get the idea that would work against coronavirus?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Well, I mean, it sounds interesting to me, but okay. So let me be clear. You should not ingest disinfectants under any circumstance. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Why? Because it's stupid and dangerous. It just is. I mean, and this should be obvious to anybody. And yet, for some reason, not obvious, as if you had cases in both Kentucky and New York of people calling poison control because they have ingested disinfectants. I mean, come on. So that's why Governor Larry Hogan, of course, who's a Republican, by the way, he's a Republican and he's been hitting Trump. And so this is a response to this, entire thing of, hey, are you taking any responsibility? Where Trump says no, comes from Hogan saying this, quote, I think it is critical that the president of the United States, when people are really scared in the middle of this worldwide pandemic, that in these press conferences that we really get the facts out there. Governor Hogan told Margaret Brennan on CBS's Face the Nation. So, well, here's the thing. Problem is, Trump doesn't believe in facts. He never takes responsibility for anything. He was calling his statements sarcastic. No, look, you guys saw the video, right? Did any of that sound sarcastic? Did it? I mean, there are conservatives out there too. Of course it was sarcastic. It was with deadpan humor. You just liberals don't have a sense of humor at all. Well, nobody laughed. He wasn't looking for a laugh. No, he was looking at Dr. Birx and he's like, right? Yeah. And she's like, no, that's not a treatment at all. No. I mean, you cannot honestly look at that video and think, oh yeah, no, the guy was totally kidding. He was joking. No. Nobody can honestly say that. I mean, yes, they'll come out and they'll lie. And they'll be like, oh yeah, it's totally. But they know. Like, you guys know. MAGA guys. You know. Don't lie to us. I mean, yes, you take after your boy Trump and lying all the time and then defending his ludicrous, ridiculous lies. But you know the truth. You ain't that stupid. I mean, it's unbelievable. We have absolutely the worst person in charge in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a pandemic. The worst person in charge. I mean, I would trust. Okay. So obviously I don't trust Dr. Oz because it's not a real, well, I guess he is a real doctor, but he's sold out. I'd trust Dr. Mario over any of those guys. And Dr. Mario ain't a real doctor and hands out pills like candy. That's how low my trust in this administration actually is. Low bar. We have an incredibly low bar, and the president cannot even cross it. All right. More stories. Amid the threat of a food shortage linked to the shutdown of meat packing plants across the country, as cases of COVID-19 have crippled their workforce, President Donald Trump has invoked the Defense Production Act to force meatpacking facilities that were closed to reopen and those who were considering closing to stay open. So now, in his executive order, he says this: it is important that processors of beef, pork, and poultry, meat and poultry, in the food supply chain continue operating and fulfilling orders to ensure a continued supply of protein for Americans. However, outbreaks of COVID-19 among workers at some processing plants have led to the reduction in some of those facilities' production capacity. Given the high volume of meat and poultry processed by many facilities, any unnecessary closures can quickly have a large effect on the food supply chain. Now, so that order that he signed, with that as an explanation, delegates the Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue, to take actions to ensure that meat and poultry processors continue operations. Now, Bloomberg reported that Trump decided to take this action amid estimates that as much as 80% of the U.S. meat production capacity could shut down as a result of this virus. So, this is a difficult situation where, look, we faced a possible shortage of food, right? So, food shortages in the middle of a pandemic generally are not a good thing. But at the same time, you also have hundreds of thousands or hundreds to thousands of workers that could get sick and die as a result of coronavirus and unsafe working conditions. So that has led to workers speaking out. In fact, one employee who works at a Tyson facility in Waterloo, Iowa. Now, remember, Tyson CEO recently came out and he said, look, we're having a huge problem with the food supply because we've got all our workers that are starting to get sick. They're getting sick. They can't go to work. And so, the food supply is threatened. And so the CEO of Tyson, not exactly wanting to shut down. And that's why he's put out that warning, right? So that presumably Donald Trump would take this action to make sure that people continue to have to be forced to go into work into these plants. So now these workers, one of them said, quote, all I know is this is crazy to me because I can't see all these people going back into work. I don't think people are going to go back in there. Now, there's another employee at the plant who said, I just don't know how they're going to do it when there are people dying and getting really sick. Who's to say people are even going to show up to work? I mean, look, he's right. They're both right to question this, right? Because already I've reported that the status quo at these plants has been generally unsustainable, especially during this crisis. I mean, you cannot have workers going into work without proper protection and doing those jobs and being confined into small spaces. Unfortunately, the way that it's set up is you have workers working right next to each other on a line that is moving very, very fast. And so you've got that issue where you have people standing in close quarters inside of these factories and these essentially slaughterhouses. And that makes it very likely that people are going to get sick. That is a recipe to spread this virus. And so I don't necessarily know how you can protect the workers against that. So now the problem is that with this order, I mean, the Defense Production Act basically says you can force these workers to come in. And so now you have these people that will be forced under penalty to come in and work or get and possibly get sick and die. This is disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. So I think that if you're going to force people to go into work because they're essential, right? That's what this designation is. We're designating you as an essential place of business. Then maybe these workers should be treated as essential and be taken care of. I mean, there's ways that you can do this, right? And where you can show them that their safety actually matters. One of those ways is, of course, ensuring that you have proper protective equipment. Another way is, you slow down the lines and you bring back less workers and slow down production. Now, that, of course, will affect the meat supply. However, at least you'll be able to still have some meat end up back at the markets, right? And be able to protect the workers from getting sick. Because after all, you're still going to have a slowdown if you don't have enough workers because they're also getting sick. You see what I mean? So now there are workers that are willing to fight by not coming in. There are some workers who talked with CNN who were open to returning, but were really, really concerned about how their return could be done so in a safe way. In fact, one worker said, all in all, it can be a good thing to go back to work if it's done right. But my faith in this administration has never been strong and is non-existent currently. And that's, of course, because this administration has shown they don't really care about the workers, nor do they really care about the safety of the consumers as well. I mean, there's no evidence that you can get COVID-19 from food, but prior to the outbreak, the Trump administration did pull inspectors off the lines and allowed line speeds to be increased at hog processing plants. So John Adarula of the Damage Report did an excellent story, and he keeps bringing up this point every time we talk about the food industry, how this has led to increases of hair, nails, genitals, and poop, yes, feces, inside of these products because you just don't have enough people that are inspecting this, and you have line speeds that are too fast. This is pre-coronavirus. So already there is a huge problem with our meat production. Now, COVID-19, not enough workers, it's even worse. You cannot simply keep production the way that it used to be. And I'm finding that this is true for a lot of things. You cannot just keep things the way they were, and you cannot return to the way they were anymore. It's just impossible to do. And so there has to be a way to do these things and to do these things safely. And as I said before, until you are able to do PPE, and to protect all these workers and figure out, where to place and position workers so that they're, doing proper social distancing and proper health screening and things like that, then you should just shut it down. You should absolutely shut this entire thing down. I mean, it's not as if we can't survive with a little bit of less meat, right? And I say that right now as somebody who enjoys meat. I like steaks. I like bacon. I like all that stuff, hamburgers. But look, during the shutdown, and even beforehand, I try not to eat as much because it is better for the environment when you don't consume as much meat. Now that we're in the middle of coronavirus and we're doing the stay-at-home orders and a lot of people are self-quarantining, it's not as if, we can go out and get meat every few days. No, we should really be limiting our shopping trips. I know I have where I don't, shop unless I really, really need it. For one, it's super expensive to do so. When you have people, that go out and pick up your food for you, you have to tip really, really well because they're putting themselves in danger. And you have to basically limit yourself to make sure that everybody else is able to get food and that you do get enough. And so you don't have to do more shopping trips. You know what I mean? You have to limit yourself to make sure that you do maybe a shopping trip once every couple of weeks is to limit people's exposure, or if you're going out yourself, to limit the exposure of others. And so that's what I'm trying to do personally. And that means less meat. Meat goes bad fairly quickly. And I know, of course, you can freeze it. But again, I find myself not buying as much of that and finding things and really buying things that last a lot longer. So there's that. So I could definitely, and we could definitely do with a little less meat in order to help keep these workers safe. And there's the option for some people. It's not for me, but to go more vegan options, or to go beyond meat. Again, not really an option for me. I am not that good of a person. I'll just keep it honest with you guys. I would try, but I can't do it. I can't do it. That's just me. But if you can, do so. So now, obviously, the Trump administration, they see this a lot differently. In fact, you have Trump and the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying that they support limiting the liability of employers who order their employees back to work so they cannot get sued if employees get sick. So understand that, right? Mitch McConnell says, oh no, we're going to order people back to work. We're going to take away their unemployment. And that's the other part to this, right? We're going to take away their unemployment. We're going to make sure not to send them any more stimulus money, right? That $1,200 check, that's enough. And then we're going to make sure that the companies, if people get sick, because we're sending them back out and they're most likely going to get sick, to make sure that they can't sue the companies. Right. So great. Blanket immunity for corporations. So they don't have to protect their employees. So they don't have to protect the consumers. That is what we're dealing with. That is just evil. If that happens, let me tell you, one thing that we should do, if corporations get blanket immunity, general strike. That's it. That's the only acceptable option. General strike. Don't buy from companies that support this. Don't work at any company that supports this. Shut it all down. That's literally the only power that we have left to fight against this. All right. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got more stories, including Stuart Varney versus Mike Pence. That's always fun. Stay right here. We'll be back around the nation.
Mike Pence.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TOT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Hopefully you enjoyed those stories so far, but we are not done yet. So before we get into more stuff, I do want to thank some patrons, patreon.com/TOT Nation. That's how you can keep the show sustainable. We're at 382 patrons now. Hopefully we're going to get to 400 eventually. I want to by the end of the month, but if that doesn't happen, hopefully we can get there very soon after. So overall goal, of course, is to get 1,000 patrons by the end of the year. 1,000. So we've got a while to go, and we also got a while to go. So if you can sign up, you can make independent progressive media sustainable. So that's our hope to be able to survive going further, because COVID-19, of course, has devastated a lot of people, myself included. So need all the help we can, but only if you're able to do so. All right. So thanks to patrons here, as I said. Jordan Brown. I want to thank Jordan Brown and Cooper Wickham. So thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Cooper, for signing up to be a patron, patreon.com/TOT Nation. Channel monetization, as far as the membership program on YouTube here, I want to thank Any Ghost and Trevor Watson. So thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Ghost, for signing up. You can sign up to be a channel member by hitting the join button below. All right. Oh, also, let's see. Super chats, always welcome. Thank you, Sarge Tech. Who knows? My luck, it would. But thank you. All right.
It does not help when public officials ignore their own rules, like Vice President Mike Pence at the Mayo Clinic yesterday. He should have worn a mask. He didn't. We should all obey the rules. Coming out this week, we can have our cake and we can eat it too.
That was Fox Business host Stuart Varney kind of making some sense. Except about the cake thing, I guess. But I am kind of hungry, so. All right. Anyway, so Mike Pence went to the Mayo Clinic, and as you noticed, he didn't wear a mask. And in doing so, he, I think, inadvertently sent a message, or maybe on purpose, sent a message to the country that, hey, us in the Trump administration, no, we don't follow the rules. Masks, nah. Social distancing, nah. No. We're not going to do any of that because that's not how manly men operate. I'm just saying. That, of course, is contradictory to science. Now, the mask, of course, wouldn't prevent Mike Pence from getting sick, but it would prevent others from getting sick. That's the whole point of wearing a mask. But, of course, the messaging here, the messaging is we don't care about other people. We're conservatives. Now, understand that why it's so important to wear masks. Most people, I should say, I can't really say most people, but I think a large majority of people are asymptomatic carriers. And so you have a large part of the population that is infected and carry the virus without any symptoms and are able to spread it around. You wear a mask, it makes it so that you can't spread it to other people, or it's much more difficult to do so. And so that's why Mike Pence spreading this message by not wearing this mask to other people, to other MAGA guys, right? We're going to be like, yeah, I don't have to wear a mask. Yeah. It's dangerous, very dangerous. So now, in doing a segment about New York, and Varney, I do believe, lives in New York. So a lot of this is probably has to do with, hey, man, look, I live here. Yikes, I don't want people getting me sick. Varney says this.
What happens this weekend if the weather is good and New Yorkers pour out of their homes and apartments and gather in crowds, they get too close together, all in Central Park? What's he going to do? This is true anywhere in the country where social distancing rules apply, and that's just about everywhere. But across the country, businesses are reopening. The restraints are coming off. As we've said all week long, cabin fever is meeting spring fever, and we are getting out and about. Can we enjoy the spring responsibly? We'd better, because a spike in new cases would mean a second wave and perhaps a new and more crippling lockdown. Nobody wants that. Surely the answer is this: wash your hands, wear a mask, and keep your distance. That minimizes risk. And if you're still worried, stay home.
So look, he's actually right about a lot of those things, except for the last part. I'm going to take exception to that, because in a lot of states, they're starting to reopen. And yes, there's a lot of people, a lot of Americans that are concerned about this, that will not have the option to stay home. The Trump administration is making sure that, the states are making sure that if they open up, that people cannot continue to claim unemployment benefits. The Trump administration itself is not planning on doing any more rounds of stimulus. Trump himself has basically said, no, I'm not going to send out any more checks. What we're going to do is we're going to look at doing a payroll tax cut. So that has the, of course, added benefit of destroying Social Security, while also, quote unquote, encouraging people to get back to work, or saying, since we don't have a rent freeze, since we don't have a moratorium on mortgages, people will not have the money to refuse to go to work. So they don't really have a choice. Now, Varney ignores all that, but for the most part, he's actually correct. Yes, you want to minimize risk, social distance, wear a mask, and all that stuff. So, look, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with Varney on, but on this, it's just kind of common sense. And the fact that he's literally one of the only people right now, one of the only lone voices on Fox News that is making sense, that is saying common sense things. I mean, it is kind of indicative of where the network is as a whole. I'm just saying, look, none of us want to be locked down. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of suffering that's going on, both health-wise and economic. And as I pointed out, the administration wants to do nothing to help that. They got their bailouts for big business. Corporations got an enormous amount of bailout money. And most of it, again, went to the very richest corporations in the country. It was a massive heist, a mass redistribution of wealth to the very top. And we all got a $1,200, not all of us even. Some of us got a $1,200 check. So, I mean, that's the extent of the help from the Trump administration that we're ever going to get. And so there are idiots, by the way, out there that are not taking this very simple advice. They're making it worse by protesting without masks and without doing social distancing. Republican governors opening up too early. They're all guaranteeing a second wave. And by the way, that is bad for the economy. And Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, is saying that a second wave, a second spike in coronavirus cases and deaths is inevitable. It's inevitable. Now, I know that Varney is probably motivated, as I mentioned before, by selfishness, since he lives in New York, which is one of the big hot spots. But you know what? At this point in time, it's fine. Because containing this virus is good for everyone in the long run. While prolonging it and doing other things that you shouldn't, like what Mike Pence has done, like what a lot of these Republican governors are doing, like Greg Abbott in Texas, that's opening up business in the state by Friday, is the dumbest thing possible that you should be doing right now. And it's only going to make this worse. And so at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to have our cake or eat anything. All right. I think I'm fairly clear on that. Following the news, the economy has contracted another nearly 5% as coronavirus rips through the country. President Trump has expressed that he will not be supporting any more direct payments to American workers. In fact, here's what he says instead.
The idea of another round of stimulus payments to American taxpayers directly. Democrats, of course, up on the Hill are talking about the idea of a guaranteed income, which obviously could go on for months and months and months.
Yeah.
What about another round of
Well, I like the idea of
individuals?
payroll tax cuts. I've liked that from the beginning. That was a thing that I really would love to see happen. A lot of economists would agree with me. A lot of people agree with me. And I think, frankly, it's simple. It's not the big distribution, and it would really be an incentive for people to come back to work and for employers to hire. The double tax on the company and also on the person. That's what I like. And something like that could happen.
It would be an incentive for people to come back to work. Really? So why are people staying away from work right now as it is? Oh, right. Highly contagious virus. I know a conservative talking about it as well. Well, we're paying people too much to stay home. I mean, those extra $600 in unemployment benefits, we hate that. That's making a lot of people choose to stay home. But wait, the whole point is we want people to stay home for the short term until we can flatten the curve and get aggressive testing, contact tracing, all that stuff, so that we can quarantine the people who need to be quarantined and then slowly get everyone else back to work. Can't do that if you, A, don't have aggressive testing, which we do not here in America, and B, can't do that if you start forcing people to come back to work by ripping away the only support that they have. But that's exactly what they're trying to do. So now most Americans disagree with lifting stay-at-home orders. Over 80% of Americans say, yes, we would rather do the quarantine now, right? Or do the social distancing, or do the stay-at-home orders, and even if it hurts the economy, so that we can come through on the other side and pick things up. So the majority of the American people are right, and they're on the right side, and they're smart. They're listening to the experts, and the experts are saying, we are not ready to go back to work. Trump's saying, oh, no, go back to work. We're going to give you a payroll tax cut, which doesn't help the 26 million people that are out of work currently. And we don't know how many businesses are going to pick up, how long it's going to take to get people back to business, right? And we're also going to hurt Social Security in the meantime. Which, by the way, in the CARES Act, they already got a deferment on paying Social Security taxes. The businesses did. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is terrible. So now, this is another way, of course, to justify sending people back to work in the red states that have opened up. And also, they're going to try to withhold money from blue states as well in order to get their political agendas. Later on that video, of course, in that same press conference, Trump started going on about, well, I mean, some states want some federal assistance and all that. And we can think about that, but we want to get some stuff in return too. In fact, we're going to go after sanctuary cities. Ridiculous. But another insidious part of getting people back to work before they're ready to do so is you have states that are out there warning employees that they're going to lose their unemployment benefits if they refuse to go back to work for their employers. So say your employer's a dick, and there's a lot of instances where this could be true. And they're like, I don't care about your health. Oh, I don't care if it's risky. I'm not going to do anything to protect you, and I'm going to order you back to work. And what do? Well, you have to go back to work, or else you lose your unemployment benefits. And so there's a very real situation where you can get sick from coronavirus, and if you're immunocompromised, you could die. And look, there are situations where people that are generally relatively healthy in their 20s and 30s also die from complications, or they get strokes. All sorts of things are happening to people that were presumably quite healthy. So this is a devastatingly nasty virus. And yet you have an administration that doesn't care, that wants to send you back out to get that virus if it helps his buddies. So now this is one state that's doing this, that's starting to strip unemployment benefits away from people who refuse to go back to work, is Iowa. And it's ran by Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. She said last Friday, if you're an employer and you offer to bring your employee back to work and they decide not to, that's a voluntary quit. You would not be eligible for unemployment money. Reynolds also said that employers who have workers that refuse to return should file a report with Iowa Workforce Development. So, man, it's your name's going to be in a report if you refuse to go back to work. Now, this is also starting to happen in Texas, which is opening up retail stores, restaurants, movie theaters, and malls. They're going to open up by Friday. So, no stimulus money, no unemployment benefits, and a highly contagious virus. That's not a good combination because you're, again, forcing people back into getting that virus. The whole thing that we've been locked down to begin with, to prevent the sudden spread, the spike of the virus from overwhelming our healthcare system. Now we're just, they don't care. They don't care. They're going to send them back out. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Now, add on to that the payroll tax cut, which is, again, a stealth cut to Social Security and Medicare. And by the way, it makes no sense to give people a payroll tax cut when there are millions of people, 26 million people that are unemployed. And again, we don't know how many people are going to be able to go back to work and how much demand there is going to be for products and services. I mean, how many places do you think are going to see the huge influx surge of customers? I understand people are, stir crazy, right? Getting a little bit of cabin fever. A lot of us miss going out to eat. I miss going out to eat. But if you lift the restrictions too soon, is the majority of people, are they going to go out there? Are they going to be like, oh, no, the governor lifted the lockdown, so everything's fine. Even though the doctors and the medical experts are saying, it's not fine. It's not fine. We do not have this thing contained. How many people are going to go out there? Are they going to see a big surge in customers? And if not, what about all the workers that get invited back and then, well, I should say not get invited, get forced to come back and possibly exposed to the virus, then probably getting laid off again because there's a lack of demand or a lack of money because the government has not been supporting the people as it should while this lockdown has been happening. One $1,200 check, not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And so, look, Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, he's on the coronavirus task force. He's saying, look, we're not even close to being open with this. Contrary to what Trump is saying, right? There is going to be a second wave of this virus. And look, it's very likely that this could be more deadly than the first wave. I'm not 100% sure on that. That's speculation. But like, you look what happened with the Spanish flu. The second wave killed way more people. And so far, we've lost more people than we lost in Vietnam. Over almost 60,000 Americans have died of coronavirus. And over 1 million that we know are infected. How much more? How much worse is a second wave going to be? I mean, not good. And now, as far as the economic argument, of course, Justin Wolfers, economic professor at the University of Michigan, says, quote, economists don't actually agree with him. Payroll tax cuts are too slow and poorly targeted. Unlike additional stimulus checks, cutting payroll taxes does nothing to help seniors or the millions of Americans who just lost their jobs. And that's according to a tweet from Social Security Works. They do say, however, that it defunds Social Security and Medicare, which is why Trump is obsessed with the idea. So that's the situation. I mean, if you really want to help Americans, then yes, you would do direct stimulus payments. I mean, look, and let's be honest, a lot of people are against the idea on Capitol Hill. These people are all incredibly wealthy and connected. So they look at that and go, why would we pay people to sit home? Well, I mean, the answer is fairly obvious: to reduce the spread of the virus. But again, They talk about, what incentives are we giving them? No, we want them to go out and work. You can't work in the middle of a pandemic. That is a terrible idea. Awful idea. And so that's the direction that they want to take us in, unfortunately. And again, if you want to cut Social Security, that payroll tax cut is just another way to do that. And that has been a longstanding goal for Republicans. I mean, Trump gets a twofer essentially by doing this. People are forced to go back to work, pleasing his donors, which the people that have been pushing for America to get back to work, they're almost exclusively right-wingers or billionaires. I mean, you had Elon Musk earlier today tweeting, "Free America!" Basically trying to get everybody to go back to work. Elon Musk, trash, garbage. Billionaires are useless. They are less than useless. They have not helped at all in this crisis. They have been sitting in their gilded mansions, putting out ridiculous video. Oh no, we feel we're there with you. We're here for you. No, you're not. No, you're sitting in your $1 million mansions, and you don't have to experience the economic anxiety of not being able to work, right? Because there's a deadly virus out there, and not getting any support from the government. Do you know how that feels? You absolutely do not know how that feels. So don't even try. Don't even try. No, garbage, useless. Rich people are useless. Job creator, my ass. But look, the problem with Donald Trump's plan is, of course, it's going to fall apart. It's going to end up worse on us. It's going to rebound worse on the American people. We're going to have a higher death toll. We're going to have more people getting sick. We're going to have that gigantic spike that we've been warning about, and could lead for him even more unfortunate consequences, because the only thing that Donald Trump cares about is himself and his own power. And so if that happens, and I hope it doesn't, but if that happens, there's probably going to be either a huge backlash in November, right, where people vote him out of power, or if this happens, what I could see is a general strike or even riots. You don't think that's possible? Oh, it's incredibly possible. It's absolutely possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is possible. It's very real. Because you know what? You push people only so much. And for the last 40 years, we have been pushed as Americans to the very edge by the ruling class, by the corporations, by the elites, by the donors. Being forced to choose between, paying your bills and staying alive, well, that's not a choice anybody's going to really want to make. And that is, I think, unacceptable for most people. And our politicians are probably going to hear about it, and it's not going to be good. So if you think that there's a lack of civility now, just wait until people are literally given the choice between starve to death or get coronavirus and die. It's not going to be good. Okay. Fairly clear here. We'll do one more story here to be, I think, fairly quick. Senator Bernie Sanders' former campaign manager from 2016, Jeff Weaver, is creating a super PAC. This super PAC is apparently supposed to get Bernie Sanders supporters to support Joe Biden. Yes, so now this super PAC, as I said, was created to persuade Sanders supporters to turn out for Biden in November, according to a report from the New York Times. Now, that has, of course, prompted some strong reactions from former Sanders campaign workers and supporters. I mean, look, there's so many things that is wrong with this. But first, let me go here to a quote from Weaver. He said, "Because of the strength of the progressive movement, we together have moved the Democratic Party in the national debate. All that success, however, means little if we don't elect the candidates we have pushed to be more progressive." Now, where has Biden been more progressive? I mean, he kind of adopted sort of maybe Elizabeth Warren's plan on higher education. By the way, going back on a problem that he created. Remember, Joe Biden made it so that you cannot declare bankruptcy from student loans. You still have to pay them even if you declare bankruptcy. So that was something that Joe Biden did. So now he's like, oh, yeah, my bad. I'm going to reverse that. Oops. And then did some form of student loan forgiveness, not cancellation, but forgiveness. So the way that I understand that works is that cancellation zeroes out the debts. Whereas forgiveness, the government will then pay itself because that's who loaned out the money. And this is, of course, for federal loans. It will pay itself, which counts as income on your taxes, which then, depending on how much the government forgives, can place you into an incredibly high tax bracket. So you exchange owing the government for student loans into owing the government for back taxes. Not really a great plan. So I don't know where Jeff Weaver is saying, oh no, the Joe Biden, more progressive. I also don't know where Bernie Sanders is saying, and one of his reasons that was reported for him bowing out, at least one that is given publicly, is, well, I mean, he was successful at pushing Joe Biden to the left on some issues that he's more comfortable with giving his endorsement. Look, I love Bernie Sanders. This is not meant to trash him. I think he's, would have been an amazing president and was a great, great leader, figurehead for the progressive movement. But this ain't it. Ain't it. Sorry. But I'm a policy voter, and most Bernie Sanders supporters followed Bernie Sanders because of the policy, not because of the person. There's the whole idea of not me, us, kind of the whole point of the progressive movement. And the movement has existed before Bernie. It will exist for long after Bernie. And so I don't like this whole idea of a super PAC. And by the way, speaking of Bernie Sanders didn't like it either. In fact, Sanders is, quote, not supportive of the PAC based on his opposition to super PACs in general. And he said he, quote, certainly would prefer we had not done it through a super PAC. So Bernie Sanders is even against this. So now, who's on this PAC? Well, Weaver is joined by former Sanders campaign staffers Chuck Rocha, Tim Tagaris, Shelley Jackson, and Mark Longbaugh. So a lot of those people are consultants. And some of those, ideas from some of these consultants, campaign strategy, not great. In fact, you had people inside the Sanders campaign that told Bernie, don't be aggressive on Biden. Don't be aggressive against Biden. And look, Bernie Sanders himself considers Joe Biden to be a friend. And so he didn't go aggressive against Biden. And I think perhaps if he had, maybe Super Tuesday might have turned out a little bit differently, or maybe there would have been nothing that we could do, nothing that the campaign could have done to fight against the entire establishment. We really have no idea. We just have no idea. But, fair criticism, right? So now the PAC was, of course, met with condemnation. Here's People for Bernie founder Winnie Long saying this: "You are not obligated to support this effort. In fact, you should condemn it. It is unconscionable to support Joe Biden in this moment. And then, of course, cited Tara Reade's sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden. Now, what's interesting about that, of course, is that there's been new corroborating evidence to show that, yes, she was indeed sexually assaulted by Joe Biden, or at least she has told people. And yet the Biden campaign is still using a New York Times article that doesn't actually, or New York Times investigation that didn't actually take any of this evidence into consideration. Not only that, but they've also used information from very dubious Krasenstein brothers in order to make their case against Tara Reade. So I'm just saying, I wouldn't really trust the New York Times in this. It's not as if they didn't work with the Biden campaign on messaging. I mean, not exactly a neutral publication. All right. So now, anyway, another Sanders ally, former campaign surrogate Jamal Green, also called out Weaver for blocking his efforts to reach out to black voters during the campaign. Tweeting, quote, "When they shut down efforts in Mississippi, basically giving up the effort to black voters, Weaver did that. Weaver made Bernie lose twice." And of course, Jamal Green goes on a very long social media tangent about Weaver and about the failures of the campaign. And so, look, I don't know. I wasn't in the campaign, obviously. I don't know, but I have heard a lot of stories where the campaign was ineffective in states, for example, like South Carolina, where there are people that were asking for campaign resources for people to come to the state and campaign more and all that stuff, and were rebuffed. And so not every campaign, of course, is perfect. And I actually am not going to blame Bernie Sanders specifically for that. There were people in his campaign that were less than effective, but what's done is done. And what's important now is how we actually further the movement or further the goals of the movement, which is to get policy. And I'm sorry, but launching a super PAC, because that's what progressives, well, we definitely want to see a super PAC, guys. Right. No, launching a super PAC to get us to vote for Biden, not going to really be effective, especially since one of the parts of being a progressive is being against money in politics to begin with. So I don't see how at all this is going to be effective. And I am happy to see that Bernie Sanders has disavowed this and said, I'm not comfortable with this at all. Because you know what? A lot of us progressives feel the exact same way. All right. That's it. That's all I've got time for you guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. I do want to read a couple of super chats before I head out the door. Adrian Benningfield asks, who am I interviewing next for the podcast? Well, it's not really much of an interview. It's actually more of a discussion. So I love the discussion format that we have on the podcast. And that, of course, our next guest is going to be Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Ben and I have had discussions before, so it'll just be amazing to be able to sit down with him on a long form type of discussion. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ben is on fire when it comes to his, social media, when it comes to his commentary, especially on the subject of the Democratic Party. So we're definitely going to get into that. I have some questions about, other things, automation perhaps. So that's an interesting discussion as well, UBI. And just we'll see where the conversation goes. But I cannot wait to be able to have it. So that is Saturday. Patrons will get first look. I will release it to everyone else, to the public, on Sunday. But if you want to hear it on Saturday, patreon.com/TYT Nation. All right. That's it. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.
Mike Pounds.
Please clap.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.